Welcome everyone to our live stream today. It's been a while since we've had our live stream. I don't even think we did one in January, but here we are in March. We missed it in February as well. We've been just busy guys at in the back, just making things happen. So I wanted to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to show up and be with us. Hopefully, you will gain some information out of this live stream that will help you. Today, we're going to be talking about VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure, and what it is and how it can actually elevate your particular infrastructure in doing work with your team, or maybe you're a solopreneur, just enhancing what you've already got. And we'll kind of get into that. We're going to talk about different deployment models and stuff like that. As always, I've got my co-pilot here. I was going to call you co something else, but
Good.
co-pilot, Jared. Jared.
So my Goose and your Maverick, is that how we're doing
Yeah,
it?
there you
Or
go. There you go.
what is the new one?
I
I
don't have a
don't forget his
Top Gun helmet back. You see, I got all my helmets back there, but I don't have a
Oh,
Top Gun.
yeah.
I'll have to see if I can find one.
Yeah, that'd be a good stuff to add to your wall of memorabilia.
My wall of
Remember
helmets.
wall wall of helmets and movie cinematic trophies. I don't know what you
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
call
trophies, exactly.
it. Yeah,
So,
cool
hey,
stuff.
as we get started here, if you have any comments, questions as we're going through here, don't hesitate to put them in the comments area. We're
Mhm.
streaming on multiple platforms today, and Jared will prompt and bug me and cajole me to
I
to uh,
promise.
answer some questions as you may have them as we're going through. So don't hesitate or be shy. Go ahead and reach out. So, Jared, you and I have talked about virtual desktop environment for structure for a while now. We use
Mhm.
a virtual desktop infrastructure. We have a very sophisticated deployment. The VDI or virtual desktop infrastructure is just one of them. Now, some of you may say, well, what's a virtual desktop infrastructure? You've probably ever
Good
used
question.
something like a remote desktop. That's kind of like what a VDI is a remote desktop. Although a remote desktop can be one of the names used for it, the back end or where you're accessing your data can be totally different. You can have a remote desktop from your own single PC. And so we're kind of going to go through that and demystify this a little bit and show the advantages of the different scenarios. So Jared, if you want to keep an eye on um, the different comments that may come in, that would be awesome.
Will do.
And I'm going to flip screens here. All right. So the first thing I want to do is just talk about computers. So a single computer can be used in multiple different ways. A solopreneur just using a single computer may or may not have his documents or her documents on the local machine, may have them in the cloud. For most people, and we've kind of encouraged this, if you have a subscription of Microsoft Office, business standard at the very basic, not the home one, but the business standard or the escalated ones from there. If you're using one of those, you get a free terabyte of storage space. Why not use it? And if you are in the US, it'll be on a US server. If you're in Canada, it'll be in a Canadian server. And so all your stuff is secure and safe. And we've been using this for a long, long time. And so consider that. You should get your data off of your machine and have it backed up on a regular basis. So a single computer can be used for a solopreneur. And what I was going to also mention is it can also be used as a host computer. So what I mean by that is you may have one, two, or three computers in an office, and you're trying to create somewhat of a local area network. And it's not a true local area network. But what it is you're just sharing data. So one of the computers acts as the host for the database. So if you're using the Act CRM software, maybe one of them is the host for the database, and maybe that same one or a different one is being the host for all the documents and files and such. And so you want to there's a lot more risk in having that sort of thing, because if the host computer goes down or they turn off their computer, no one else has access to that information. So it's not the best scenario. And for two people, maybe you can get by with it. You get on to three plus people, I honestly don't really recommend it. So you want to think about, if you are in that scenario, is that the best scenario for you? You're at risk in a lot of different areas, and I won't go into super detail. But if you're just a single solopreneur, not a problem. Just make sure you've got a firewall in your office or wherever you're at so that you can be uh, kind of guarded against hacks and stuff like that. The next one we want to go through is a real local area network. And that's where you've got a server or multiple servers. You've got a firewall. You've got a connection, a modem, so that you can connect out to maybe a VPN or virtual private network. You've maybe got your documents are on one server or maybe both servers, or as a redundancy, you may have your database on there. You may also even have it in OneDrive and SharePoint, but then having it local as well on the server. So there's a bunch of different ways of deploying. And I really want to emphasize, that there are multiple ways of deploying your office. And some are really great and some are not as great, as I just mentioned with a single PC, where you're trying to use single PCs as a pseudo local area network. So I just want to make sure that you understand that in this environment, in a server environment or a local area network environment, you go through the servers and the firewalls to get out to the internet, and it's pretty locked down. If you've got a good IT person, it's going to be locked down. And just like anything else, if you go to the doctor, you may go through 3 or 4 different doctors before you find a good doctor. And the same thing can be said for IT companies. And I say this because we used to have an IT company, and I know this. And we were pretty decent, I must say. But we were, at the time when we did it, and this is a lot of years ago, we were young and we were still learning stuff. And so maybe you're not as good as the old geezers that have been around for a while that really know their stuff. And so, you kind of got to look at that. But most IT guys are on the cusp. And in this environment, it's usually pretty secure, it's pretty safe, long as you've got a good IT person. If you're trying to manage the local area network yourself, now you're spreading yourself thin and things may get missed, updates and that sort of stuff. And so you want to be careful when you're working in a local area network that you've got somebody who's really got your back. If you're not have a full-time IT person looking after your equipment. And I've met a lot of IT people over the course of my tenure in business, and there are some really good ones out there. Some guys that really really want to make a difference. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is in encompassing all of these little pieces in here. Now, here's with this particular image here that I've got. I had to think for a second. For this particular image, it kind of depicts you've got multiple PCs, you've got in here 2 servers, you've got some switches and routers, and a modem. So let me explain one of the problems with this environment is that each computer is a separate computer. Each server, unless they're virtual servers contained into one, they're separate as well. And what you want to rule of thumb is 3 years for a computer before you rotate them out, a server every 5 years. And when we followed that practice, when we had our IT company, we had very little downtime. But you have to look at it as an expense and not a cost, and not hang on to it forever. The other thing is each computer represents a fail point, some place where something's going to go wrong. This person's hard drive failed. This person's screen crapped out. So all of these things are IT specific, and so you're going to have an IT guy looking after your equipment all the time. So you have extra costs in PCs and keeping them up to date and having the latest technology, solid state drives, lots of CPU, lots of RAM, those sorts of stuff, and making sure that all your equipment is performing at its peak performance, and making sure your IT person is on top of all of this. And so there's a cost that comes with that. And if you add different loads to that, like maybe you're hosting your own web on one of the servers, or maybe you're hosting a remote desktop on one of those servers so that they can access the server to access all the files and the documents and the applications. Or maybe you're just using this as well for other other things that you're wanting to do, like all of your, uh, what do they call that? Like you can have cloud documents. You can actually have the cloud documents on your local machine and then project them out from a cloud. Like there's a lot of different things that you can do, and they're all little fail points as you're going through. And that's why I kind of want to go to the next thing, which is virtual desktop environment. Actually, no, it's not. The next one is web applications. So when you go to web applications, you can still be in a local area network. You can be on a single computer, and you access web applications. Now, there's pluses and minus for web applications. The minuses are that they're fragmented applications, and you need something like Zapier or different API protocols to be able to connect them together so that they talk. But in most cases, they are separate applications, and the environment in a web application environment is not as conducive to customization as it is in a desktop environment. So web apps are good, and we do need them each and every day. I have web portals that I go in to do certain things, and web apps that I use, but there's for specific things. But the majority of my work is on a desktop, not in a full web application. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't or couldn't, but I'm just saying that you need to kind of look at how you want to deploy in your office. How do you want to deploy all the different nuances of applications that you're going to use, and taking into consideration each user in those environments and how they want to use them, because you can get very creative with this. Um, using the Axe CRM software, you can use it in a web app. You can use it on a desktop app. A combination of the two offline if you want. Like it just gives you a plethora of different variations that you can use to do this. Now, let's go look at virtual desktop environment. What really is it? A virtual desktop environment, like I mentioned, is like a remote desktop. The only problem is, I shouldn't say, the only difference is it's not on your local computer or on your server. Now, the back end of a virtual desktop environment is crucial. There are a lot of guys that have their own hosted computers where they will have the PC and they will act as the virtual desktop environment. And now again, you have some fail points because you have to rely on that IT person to make sure that that virtual machine or his server farm is compliant, up to speed, and can handle it. We tested out a bunch of virtual desktop environments with Manulife Canada at one point, and it was really interesting to log into these or try these different virtual desktops and environments, and find that some were really laggy slow, some were not as stable as they could be. And so when ourselves, we offer virtual desktop environment infrastructure, but it's all Microsoft. It's not something that we have a server farm, that sort of stuff. It's all Microsoft. So it's all the latest technology, the latest security, all the latest protocols. And so when we set ours up for our clients, they're pretty much bulletproof. And it was kind of like the other day when Microsoft actually went down, and there were a bunch of people that were on Citrix and different environments. They went down and weren't able to work. All our environment continued to work, and I don't know what the difference was, but all of our virtual desktop environments were working just fine, and nobody had any issues. We had a few issues with some off Microsoft Office, but our guys were able to rectify that quite quickly. So in this diagram, you see in the virtual desktop environment, you've got everything. You've got security. You've got your Windows application. You've got antivirus. You've got backups. You've got you can have multiple servers. You can have different applications. All your documents, files, and databases, and all that sort of stuff are up there, as well as, and something to note, all your applications are on there. So when you're using a virtual desktop environment, you can use a Mac or you can use a PC, you can use a tablet to access all of this information on the go. And you can also use your phone as a connecting point to get information as well. So, and the nice thing about it is when your database is up here, you can deploy in multiple different ways. You can deploy it as a web app. You can deploy it as a desktop, where people are just going in and using this whole thing. Maybe a person wants to be offline because they're going to be at the cottage for 2 months and they won't have stable internet access. They can be offline working in their Act database and then just synchronize this back up to the virtual desktop where everyone else is working. The big thing with the virtual desktop environment is probably the nicest thing is that you've got one server or maybe two server that you're dealing with. So if somebody needs an update, you update one machine, everybody gets updated. Somebody needs an update to an application, you update that one application, everybody gets updated. The security is really locked down. You have dual authentication. You can even lock it down by IP address. So the security is really, really strong and really stable. In fact, years ago, this is probably about 5 or 6 years ago, there was a big push on people using web apps only. And Microsoft and Amazon basically said, no, that's not really where things are going to go because people rely too much on the power of a desktop application. And Gartner Group kind of ran a couple of things on this, and they were saying that, yeah, in the coming days, more and more people will be going to virtual desktop environments because they're becoming more stable, more strong, more powerful, and it gives you that desktop experience with those desktop apps that are really more powerful than a web in some cases. Some web apps are actually really advanced and do really good, and we use a few of those that are like that. Jared, before I go any further, is there any other questions at this point?
Nope, no real big questions. Yeah, I guess it's just, I guess, why choose VDI over or the original over your own, local server or buying your own stuff? Why is that good? Because it looks like it's secure, at least from what you've been showing. And it looks
Yeah,
like it's easy to update stuff for everybody. Makes it maybe cut down on IT costs. But what's the
yeah,
big reason to
yeah,
go to the VDI?
and that's a valid point. That's a valid point, and I'm not saying, hey, go out and get rid of your IT guys and your IT infrastructure. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there
Mm,
are vulnerability points in security. Not as much. I mean, they're probably just as secure. I would say in some cases the VDI may be even more secure.
oh, okay.
But the biggest thing is fail points. When you go into a virtual desktop environment, you're dealing with, let's just say, for argument's sake, one server. So you're going onto one server. If anything goes wrong, you can fix that. As opposed to you got three people that have an Outlook problem, like Outlook the other day, and now the IT guy has to jump onto each person's computer and fix
Mm,
that Outlook problem on each computer. Or if they have an update, he has to go to each person's computer. I said he or she would have to go to each person's computer in order to fix the problem. So there's just more labor intensive on a internal server, and
mm,
for the owner, there's more IT costs, and it's always been that way, and that's not a bad thing. But I'm just saying, here's another alternative, especially if you're having like we had one client, a financial advisor company, who was using desktops and they were having nothing but problems. They went to a VDI provider, which had their own server farm. It worked better than what they had. However, they still had they still had problems. And then what we did is they came to us and we put them on our environment because they were one of our clients for the Act CRM software. And we said, well, let's give it a test in our environment and put it into theirs. And they never looked back. And so everything went well. And I'm not saying that wouldn't work well in their IT environment. It's just, if you're having problems, you may want to consider looking at something that is contained within one environment and can be easily updated, and less headaches, less cost, and it just makes it a lot easier. All right. Having said that, let's go over to my desktop here. Now I'm running this on a Mac. This is going to be a PC. It does use a Microsoft application. This is called Microsoft Windows App, that allows me to go to different servers or virtual desktop environments. So I've got a bunch here. I got client servers hosting, but here's a couple of ones that I want to, or one that I want to kind of show you. So in this one here, basically you're on your PC and you just double click and bang, you're in your virtual desktop environment. All the computing power doesn't go on your local desktop. meaning you can run an older computer long as you've got a decent internet connection and you've got, some kind of, um, like the processing power is not on the local machine. The processing power is on the server in the cloud. And for, I think, this particular server that we're using, I believe is in Toronto or Vancouver. I can't remember, but it is Microsoft infrastructure that we're using, and you just pull it up and away you go. So I don't need to install all the apps on my local computer, whether it's a Mac or a PC or a tablet. It really doesn't matter. So when I go in here, I have all the applications that I would normally have on my normal Windows desktop environment. But every employee that logs in has the same thing. So when we go to use Excel or we go to use any application, we're sharing that in the environment. I mean, so this server handles all the protocols of communication back and forth. It manages all the backup, all the security, all those different things are kind of managed. I just log in. So if I want to go, say we had, heaven forbid, we had another pandemic and I got to work from home, not a problem. You just go home. You can run on an old. In fact, I tested this on my my wife's my wife's MacBook Pro. I think it was a 2009 MacBook Pro, and very old, very slow. But when I went into the virtual desktop environment from that laptop, it worked great. And that was a 15-year-old laptop that I didn't have to rotate out. I could just say, "Hey, you're going to use this," and off you go to the races. So you're not having to rotate gear out every 3 years. You can make them last, and especially if you're, and this is a little plug for Macs, they last a little longer than PCs. Uh, we use them, and but if you got PCs, not a problem. You can run an older PC because again, you're not using the processing power. All right, so using applications like Act, here's a demo database. You just pop it up, and I've been mistaken sometimes when I've been working on a local machine because we run lots of different ways of doing this. We run our database can be on this server. We could actually have it on the Act Cloud server, our Act database, and then have it down on this environment. That's how we have ours now, because that gives us a little bit of extra stuff that we'll discuss in another video. And then I have access to like Excel, Word, Office, every kind of application. If I go over here, you can see all the applications. It's just like my regular desktop, but it's in the cloud. And I've been mistaken sometimes when I'm actually working on a remote desktop on a separate computer and flipping back and forth between my VDI and the local machine, using some stuff, testing things out, and forgot which machine I was in because they were running it just as fast on each machine. So I was like, I didn't know whether I was on my local machine or whether I was in the VDI. And I actually had to look down at the applications to see which PC that I was actually working on. So you don't have to worry about things that you applications that you usually need. Not a problem. You can use them on here like Word, Zoom, Teams, QuickBooks, PowerPoint, Publisher. You can access your OneDrives, OneNotes, all of those different applications that you may be using. You can use. You can run, like in this case, we run Chrome, but it's another version of Chrome called Brave, and it's a little locked down more than most stuff that we have when it comes to Chrome browsers. And this is the one that we use and works really, really well. And you can run that inside and having no problem. So it's really, really simple and easy to use. It's not a big gap like most people think. Oh, I'm going to this really strange environment. It's the same environment that you've always been running. In fact, it's maybe even a lot better. It's just contained within a single environment in the cloud that you have access anytime, anywhere, to be able to get to that information. So this is more of an education kind of a video, and I'm just hoping that this will help you to understand, some of the things that you can do in a virtual desktop environment. Jared, any thoughts or comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty slick. I guess,
I mean, you use it. You're an actual
yeah.
user, so what's your experience in using this? Because you use this every time you're going.
Yep.
going into our environment. I jump
Mhm.
from a bunch of different environments to testing them out and stuff. But what about yourself?
Yeah, it works really good. I mean, I have that's basically my work environment is on the cloud. I think I have
Yeah.
one work email that I have on my local just because I don't always wanna be on the VDI working, so sometimes I'll just see stuff
Yeah,
there.
but that's because you're doing
Yeah.
design work and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
You're
doing other
using
stuff, and I'm just not don't wanna be
yeah.
logged in there. It could be after hours and stuff, but yeah, basically all the email, all accounting, database, everything is in the VDI, and it runs very smoothly. It makes it, just a lot easier to log in. You just need internet, and you're good to go. You don't
Now
need a powerful computer. Kinda
you
cool.
use Ring Central in the cloud as well, right? Our voice over IP phone system?
I have used it, yes. I've used it on both. Yeah.
On both? Okay.
So
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, and with that, running like we run, well, one of our videos coming out or one of our live streams, I don't know if it's next week or the week after, we'll be talking about Call Manager. Now, we actually dropped this or put this out to the public last summer, but there was a bunch of changes we wanted to make through it. So we're actually doing our official launch. It's actually been on our website for a while, but we're doing our official update, I guess. Let's call it an update
Yeah.
launch in the next week or two, and it's actually launched now. We've got all the stuff fixed, but we're going to actually do the launch,
Hmm.
and that works in this environment because we've tested this out in there and making calls using Ring Central or whatever kind of voice over IP phone system you can dial out or text out right from there, and it's kind of cool. So this environment is pretty contains everything that you're gonna want to need, and what it does is it takes away from all the stress of this isn't working, that person's complaining, this person's complaining, and
Hmm.
all on these individual stuff. And this needs to get fixed. And my IT guy can't get over because he's all in an emergency with somebody else,
Yeah.
unless the person's more of a full time IT person. And what it does is it takes that out. You make a call and everybody's up to speed, and there's updates are happening, backups are happening, and you just go do your work. What do you do for a living? Go do that, and you're off to the
Right.
races.
Well,
So
what is this environment? Obviously, is it meant for small businesses, one person, large companies? Like, what do you recommend this environment for? Is it kind of everything,
we
or does it
have
kind of
people
depend on
that
the
are
situation?
Yeah, we have people that are just single individuals that just want to be able to access their information anywhere on a tablet or whatever, and they want to have it in the cloud, and that's not a problem. And then you go up to there to you know uh, you know 20s, 30s people
Mm.
up to hundreds. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
the size. You scale the infrastructure to the size of the organization, so, and then you just add more resources to accommodate the extra weight and need, and sometimes we'll roll out a second server as a parallel server to support that. And I should also remember mention too, as part of the security, you have redundancies in here. So if something goes down, the whole thing is on another server in another location, and so you have redundancies and backups and stuff. And so in
Mm.
order to get back up and running, you just take an image from the day and just pop it back on, and you're back in business. So it just makes it a lot easier. So a lot less downtime.
Mm.
And the only thing that can hamper all of this is forgetting what your password is to get in, really.
The password, or I guess the internet goes down.
Yeah, or the internet goes down. And
But
that's another
that's going to
good
slow things
reason
down anyway.
why
But
some people like to have a remote desktop of Act on their other machine, right?
yeah,
So
like
that
their
they
database
if they have to be down, we can still work. There's not a problem. And
does happen
that's
sometimes.
I think for me is the cool thing is that you can roll this out in so many different ways. It is just amazing that how you can deploy your Act CRM or any of the applications you have. You have a variety of different deployment options to suit your specific needs and to suit your specific worries. Like, I want to make sure that everything is protected, or I want to make sure,
Mm.
all of those different concerns can be dealt with and shown multiple different ways. There's not just one way to do it. You can do multiple different ways.
Mm.
So, anyways, well, hopefully this has been helpful to everyone. I hope you've gained something out of this. I don't believe we've got any other questions, do we, Jared?
Nope, no other questions. Yeah, no, it seems like a cool technology. It's yeah, you can cut down on your IT costs, hardware costs, but then I guess you trade that for the cost of the VDI, right? Which was, is it usually a yearly
Exactly.
fee or is it a monthly fee? Or I guess it just depends on the.
It's usually a monthly fee that you pay,
Mm,
and ours is based on resources. Some people do it based
mm,
on the number of individuals and so much per individual. Ours is a
mm,
little different. Some the people that do it, per user, that sort of stuff. Usually, that's their business. This is
right.
more of a it's part of our business, but it's not the majority of our business. It's a very small part of our business,
Mm,
and so we're not here to gouge or take advantage of it. So we basically say, what is the resources? And then, we add a little bit to it for our compensation. And so it's usually going to be the same or cheaper than what in most cases, cheaper than what you're going to get someplace else, just
mm,
because, you know, this isn't our main business, where others that may be their main business, and they need to make sure that they're getting compensated because they may have multiple people looking after it. But once it's set up properly, there's usually very limited interactions once the deployment has taken place. So,
mm.
but we can definitely, if anybody has any questions on this, want to give it a test drive as a demo, we can definitely make that happen for you. Just
Mm,
You can just direct message me or reach out to Jared, either one of us, and
yeah,
we'd be happy to have a discussion to find out which is the best deployment option for you. And
yeah,
again, you can run multiple scenarios. Like I had mentioned, we put our our Act databases actually up on a Canadian Act server, and we were interested to see how this works, and then took a remote, put it on our VDI server to see how that would work, and it works amazing. And then we have some advantages of the Act server, like the new, and this is something else we'll be showing, the new Act mobile application, which is a lot more beefier than the Act companion, if anybody's using that. And
yeah,
so we decided to put that up there, and it is lightning fast, like amazingly fast. And so we'll be showing that in the next coming weeks as well. That little application and some of the
yeah,
advantages. So again, and then I can run remotes off as well from there. And again, you know, it's a blank canvas. How do you want to deploy? What's the best solution for you? Let us help you figure that out, and we'll get you to the goal line. All right. I think that's it for today, Jared. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. For those who are on the live stream, we're glad that you're here. Hopefully, this has been educational. If you got further questions, don't hesitate to reach out or put something in the comments area. We'd be happy to reach out to you if you've got questions. But I mean, we're really excited about all of this, and the reason is because it gives you, the business owner or the user, more flexibility to run your business the way you want, get some of those pain points out of the way, and focus on what you guys do for a living, and not have to be IT guys trying to look after everything. Just, if you can streamline things to make it easier, why not?
yeah. Just
Anyways,
it's
have
something to make it
yourself a,
easier.
what's that, Jer?
Sorry, I was just, yeah, it's just something to help make things easier for you. So
That's
I
the
mean, if that's something you want to do, and Microsoft usually is pretty good at being pretty reliable, and that's
Oh,
usually the
not
person
pretty
we're using for
reliable.
that.
In
So
our experience, it's been probably
I
the
mean, better
most
than most.
reliable. I think
Yeah.
AWS is probably the only other one that.
Mm,
But with Microsoft,
yeah.
you're getting all Microsoft, because Microsoft makes the infrastructure
Yeah.
for all the apps that you run on Windows app, all the Office apps. They make everything. So why not have an infrastructure that is on a stable footing environment?
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much for showing up today. Hopefully, this has been
Thanks for
beneficial
watching.
to you. We'll talk to you on the next live stream, which should be next week. Fingers crossed
Mhm.
we don't run into any snags. Catch you on the next one. Bye for now, everyone.
See ya.